Welcome back to Ode to Ghosts. I don't even know why I'm talking right now because this episode has nothing to do with me. This is your
Yes, it does.
episode. This is your episode. We are trying something a little bit different this
Yeah.
time.
Well, this is still equally as much your episode. You
You
just
are
don't have as much to say in it this time.
you are leading the episode.
Yeah, so we are going to try something a little different this week. This is
We're
very
being smart.
much
She's being smart.
yes, this is very much a trial episode just cuz we haven't done this before, but basically we had a bit of a spooky experience over the weekend back in my home state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it kind of inspired us to maybe do an episode on a sort of legend creature cryptid from Minnesota. So that's what we're going to do
Since
today.
you're doing all the research and stuff, if you want to, I'll tell the story about what went down.
Yeah, go for it. Get your talking time in.
Yeah, I'm gonna need it. So we flew to your home state of Minnesota for your brother's graduation party,
Woohoo.
and we somehow managed to end up with like the hottest day of the year
Oh my god,
with,
yeah.
and it was an outside party, so that was pretty terrible. Um, no temperature I've ever felt in Minnesota before.
Yeah,
Um,
it was like dripping sweat literally all day.
yeah. Um, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
So after the party, we like cleaned up and everything, and the two of us, her brother and one of our mutual friends, uh, stayed over, and her parents had gone to bed, and so we went outside on the porch just to hang out, and we were sitting there just shooting the shit, and I can't see it because I'm like right next to a
Well, hold
pillar.
on. What were we talking
Oh,
about
yes,
at
yes,
this
sorry.
time?
So our friend was telling us about her experiences with Ouija boards, which I want nothing to do with, and I think you're absolutely ridiculous if you mess with them. Um, and she was talking about this experience where she and her friend were messing with the Ouija board, and she wanted to make sure that like what was happening was real. So she was asking it questions like, "What's her phone number?" all that kind of stuff. So she knew that her friend wasn't moving it because her friend didn't know her phone number, and so it was like spelling out her phone number, and then it started like getting angry or just like overly powerful or something, and started moving between Z and O very rapidly, which means Zozo. I'm gonna say it, okay?
No.
Yes, the people have to know.
They okay. They can put two and two together.
Well, well, they don't know what Z-O-Z-O-Z-O-Z-O-Z-O means. Like, just I'm trying to give as much context as possible. Um, this thing is supposed to be the most like powerful demon uh in regards to the Ouija board. Um and so yeah, we were talking about that and we were just all like creeped out by that story, and they were saying that word more than they needed to at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Maybe later, I don't remember. Um and so then after that, I didn't see it because I was behind a pillar, but everybody else saw this lone random ass deer start walking extremely slowly across the street across the way. And it's like, yeah, it's a deer, whatever. But one, they very rarely see deer in that neighborhood, and two, it was by itself.
That and it's also a like very developed neighborhood. So we're not like out in the country or like even like outside of town. I mean, I guess kind of, but not really.
Right.
So it was just a weird place for a deer to be. But
But anyway, we were like, okay, we're a little bit creeped out. We were like, her brother was like, skinwalkers or like whatever.
yeah.
And so then we got creeped out after he started talking about skinwalkers because we started associating that with the deer. And so we went inside. We like very hurriedly went inside. And we got inside and we walked into the living room, and our friend was still looking at the door, and there's like it's one of those doors where it has like two like very long windows on the sides of it. And she goes like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god," and like runs back into the living room. And it was like,
The cats. You
oh,
missed
that
another part of the
that
story.
happened first.
Yeah,
Okay,
because that's why she went to go look at it.
right. So we were sitting there, and I was like, "Yeah, this is like creepy, but as long as the cats don't freak out, we're okay." Because cats are gonna let you know, like any like cats, dogs, whatever, are gonna let you know if there's something going on. And not 30 seconds after I said that, there we saw one of their cats start slowly like creeping towards one of the side windows. And then our friend looks at that window and immediately like jumps back into the living room and was like, "Oh my god, I swear I just saw something like move past the window out there." And we were like, "Nah, uh." And so,
Naturally, we all start freaking out.
but at the same time, we all decide to start walking towards that door. And there's also like a little office to the right of the main door, which also has windows connected to it. And within that room was their other cat. And I didn't hear him hissing at first, but she says that as like before we even got in there, she heard the cat hissing like at the window.
Like over and over again. Like it was, and there wasn't anything going on. It wasn't loud. It wasn't like chaotic. He knows who all of us are.
But
And
we
I, yes, he does have like issues where when he gets really overwhelmed or really anxious or, like when there's a lot, it typically happens when there's a lot of people around, especially people he doesn't know, and it's really loud and whatever.
we
None of that was going on.
we partially deduced that he was somewhat freaking out because we were all creeping towards him in this like dark room. But if it's true that you say that like he was hissing before then at the window, that makes it even creepier.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts hissing. The two of us bolt upstairs, and then her brother and our friend lock themselves in the office after the cat ran out, so that like he wouldn't try to like run back in and attack them. And they didn't say they saw anything like out the window or anything,
No.
right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, they hide and then wait for the cat to settle down, and then they come back out of the office and run upstairs. Am I still doing
Mm-hmm.
good so far? Okay. So we're all hanging out up there. And this is where the story gets kind of blurry for me. We start like watching random stuff on the TV just to like take our mind off of it. Like we were watching this stupid animated thing called Smiling Friends, and then we watched South Park, just like stupid shit to take our minds off of it. And then something else happened after that. The other co-hosts are going crazy right now, and they're like jumping around. Anyway, something else happened after that I can't.
Not really much happened after that, but after we got done watching the shows and everything, we all kind of were like hungry, like we wanted to get a snack, kind of go to the bathroom, but none of us really wanted to like go downstairs by ourselves. So we all went downstairs together, got a snack, whatever, and we all settled on the couch to watch more shows or whatever. And we all got on like the big long couch because if you sat on the other one, you could see the door and the window. None of us wanted to have to look at it. So we all crammed on the couch, and right behind the couch is a big window that lines like the whole back of it. And we had the curtains closed so we couldn't look out there, but him and Arissa swear they heard like tapping on the back window. Um, but they kind of just like didn't mention it, ignored it at first because, didn't want to bring more
Yeah,
attention to it. But that was pretty much the last thing that happened. But all of it happened, like at least all that first stuff, within like a span of 5-10 minutes back
yeah.
to back. So
Oh,
it,
another thing that freaked us out in that moment, which we realized was something else, but um, y'all thought that y'all heard like whistling whenever we were looking outside the first time, but then we discovered that it was just the air conditioning. But that like really added to like,
yeah,
and all of this could have just been like we were putting a bunch of like coincidences together, and it was freaking us out. But also at the same time, this was the first kind of like experience that I had where I was like genuinely freaked out about something possibly
mm-hmm.
paranormal. I was a lot calmer than I thought I was going to be, mainly because I was just like, oh, it's nothing. Like, but deep down, I was still kind of like, this
Yeah.
is freaky.
For me, it was the opposite. Like
You were
for
having,
me,
you were about to have a panic
I
attack.
was reacting worse than I have to any other paranormal stuff that I've experienced. Like usually I'm pretty like calm and collected about it. Uh
But it was just like
but
small
no,
things adding
this
up this
time
time that
I
like,
was genuinely so afraid. Like I almost had a whole breakdown over it. I was like I mean, after having this show and like always constantly reading like all these stories and knowing how things go, sometimes like everything was running through my brain like, "Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Is something connected to us? Is it going to get in the house? Like are we already doomed? Like what's going to like, I just didn't want to know what could
yeah,
have happened,
like
but
part of me was like, this is nothing, but part of me was like, I'm being the one that's saying this is nothing, and then I'm gonna have like a really rude awakening, um, because that's how usually how a lot of these stories go is like,
yeah.
oh, it's nothing, let's just move on or whatever, and then something like crazy actually happens, and so I was going back and forth in my brain about that,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, it ended up being like fun and funny just to like be freaked out
I didn't think
together.
so.
No, okay,
No, I was very freaked out,
well, no,
genuinely.
yeah, I was freaked out, but I'm saying it. We can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of that whole story to say that uh she has done some research on this episode was originally going to be about skinwalkers in Minnesota, but skinwalkers in Minnesota are not very common.
Yeah,
So
so basically this I'll explain what this episode actually is. So, what we're doing is I basically researched a whole bunch of stuff about a Minnesota cryptid called a Wendigo, which we have briefly talked about from like other stories on here. But basically dug it all into it, and I'm going to just talk about everything that has to do with them and like the lore behind it and all that kind of stuff.
so do you have
And
a short TLDR of what a Wendigo is? And so we
well,
can also
yeah,
show the
of course.
picture.
Yes, I have it all prepared.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I will
I
shut
have
up now.
it
This is not
like
my episode anymore.
yes, I
I'm
have
out
it
of
laid
here.
out the way it needs to be laid out. Don't worry.
All right, go for it.
Um so basically, a Wendigo directly translates to the evil spirit who devours mankind.
Oh,
And actually, before I start, what do you know anything about Wendigos?
very little. And I was actually going to ask you, like, is there a certain like language or dialect that comes from the
Mhm.
translation?
So Wendigos come from it's a Native American
Oh, yeah.
folklore, and specifically the Ojibwe and the Lakota, Dakota Sioux. Um, they live throughout Minnesota, typically northern Minnesota and into Canada.
Is there a region that they originate from?
Northern Minnesota and central Canada.
That's where like Wendigos like first, like where we know
Yes.
for them to be first become a
Yes.
thing.
Because they are that folklore comes from the Ojibwe tribe that resided in northern Minnesota and
Okay.
Canada.
Well, to answer your question, no, not really. Like I know that they are similar to skinwalkers in some ways, but also not. So I will just say no. So you can
Okay.
really educate me.
Also the Cree tribe. I forgot to mention Cree as well, but we'll get to that. So yeah, it literally translates to the evil spirit who devours mankind because what a Wendigo is it's literally a possessed spirit that turns into basically a cannibalistic monster. The best way to put it. Um, There are a couple interpretations of it. Some have described it as a tall, emaciated, disturbing figure that lives in wooded or secluded areas and lures people in to kill and eat. Others have said that it is actually not a being at all and rather an evil spirit that has the ability to possess people into cannibalism. Whichever way you look at it, it's pretty scary. So, that's what a Wendigo is.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, the cultural and historical context of this, how are they connected to Minnesota? Like I said before, the Wendigo actually derives from Native American culture. This legend dates back to the 1800s, originating with the Algonquian speaking people, which includes the Ojibwe and Cree tribes who lived in northern Minnesota and central Canada. The creature is otherwise known as the Witikau, which is the language of the Cree tribe, and a Wendigo in the Ojibwe. In native culture, the Wendigo represents greed, gluttony, and the dangers of isolation in the northern forests, an important lesson for people at the time. It is deeply rooted in the harsh realities of living in these forests where the long cold winters cause food scarcity and life-threatening conditions. So,
Is there okay? I may be jumping ahead here, but I have a theory that may be completely like ridiculous. But the whole like greed thing and the like starving winters and stuff. Do you think that that's why that spirit was like became what it is for it to like fiend off of other people to try and like find food?
mm-hmm. So basically, yes. So there is more that I had in the future of this, but basically, yes. Like Wendigo, basically is full of it has like a never-ending greed and like a never-ending hunger. So it will basically it can eat as many humans as possible and
Wait,
never feel
wait,
satisfied.
wait. But
What?
you said that it could eat as much as possible, and then I said me too, and then you said humans, and I said wait,
Yeah,
because maybe I'm a
cuz yeah,
Wendigo.
they eat human flesh. And basically, like I said, they can never get enough of it, so they are constantly just hunting, and that essentially just makes them more angry over time and more dangerous because they are still trying to feed this hunger that they can never get rid of. So that's pretty terrifying. But
Nice.
basically, I'll describe the characteristics of it and then I'll show you a picture of it and we'll see if it's what you're imagining.
Okay.
So it is said that the Wendigo most commonly appears as an extremely thin and emaciated being, so much
Mm.
so that according to folklore, you can only see it while facing it head on because it is too thin to see in your peripheral vision. It will have sunken eyes, a large mouth and sharp teeth, and abnormally long limbs. Some accounts say it also has antlers or similar
Mm-hmm.
animal-like features.
That I knew. Yes.
Yeah. So this is a picture of an interpretation of it. This is a
Yeah.
more modern interpretation of it. The original descriptions of it actually doesn't have antlers or animal like features. It is more so just like a really tall, emaciated human creature, more so.
I feel like we had like talks about Wendigos on other episodes, and we had pictures like similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Probably.
yeah, I remember the whole like antlers thing.
Yeah.
But that's what's so
um,
interesting about this kind of stuff is how like its appearance changes. We talked about
yeah.
we talked about that in the last episode with Mr. Sandman
Mm-hmm.
about like how different like cultures and generations and stuff create their own appearances for these creatures just based on like people's experiences and what people believe them to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to act smart right now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, that is true. Like, I mean, that happens with like pretty much every cryptid or creature or like myth, lore, whatever, just because over time people like to create their own stories and interpretations and
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, the most common, like most well known picture today is like the thin, tall, deer looking person.
Got it.
Um, so how does it lure in its victims? So it typically uses a mimic to imitate human voices, can often get creative, imitating the voices of friends or family members, imitating a baby crying, or of someone needing help from the woods. It is most commonly known that wendigos feed on humans, so you would likely be killed and eaten if you encounter one. However, some story variations say you may become a wendigo shortly after seeing it. They could also come to you in your dreams later on, possessing you in your sleep when you are the most vulnerable. If possessed, you would take on the cannibalistic traits of the wendigo, stalking and killing humans to feed on their flesh. They are so dangerous because no matter how much they eat, their greed and hunger can never be satisfied, as I said earlier. This causes them to become angry and cruel, becoming more and more dangerous as time goes on. Yes.
Um, is the Wendigo the mimic, or does it use a mimic spirit?
I'm not sure.
I guess I'm just. Is it like the Wendigo places the mimic? or the
Mm,
Wendigo
I'm
mimics
pretty
the
sure it's
voices?
the Wendigo mimicking the voices.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can it mimic the appearance too? Is it like a skinwalker where it can?
So I actually did read that again in some interpretations, yes, it can change appearances, but most stories and most legends of it that doesn't happen. So I would say based on the original storytelling and the original like accounts of it, then no.
Okay.
Um but that actually kind of leads right into the next thing that I was going to talk about,
Wow, I'm so good.
which is in modern day accounts, the Wendigo has taken on many other forms in the media that strays away from its original description, such as hairy animal like figures, sometimes having red eyes, claws, and more features that were not described in old storytelling. This is seen in nearly every cryptid, legend, spirit, etc. over time. I already said that. That that happens a lot with people changing the appearances and the stories and whatnot. Um, but that doesn't take away from the fact that people still today report sightings of Wendigos, whether the person knew what they were seeing or not. It is most common to hear or see Wendigos in the forests or rural plains of northern Minnesota, particularly surrounding the Great Lakes and further north into Canada.
Ugh,
Yeah,
we've been around there.
I know. So knowing that like I spent so much time in that area growing up, like most of my summers were spent at the Great Lakes or like in northern Minnesota and like by the Canadian border and stuff. So
That's the thing with these things is we will never know how many of these we've actually seen or heard
or maybe not
or
heard, or maybe it just like been in the presence of like
yeah, because like typically like if you don't act on what you're seeing or hearing, then nothing's gonna like happen
yeah,
to you. And so
yeah,
that's like a freaky thing to think about is like they're probably in our midst more than we would like to think.
sure, yeah. But yeah, they're most commonly seen at night. However, if you are in total isolation, they could appear to you in the daylight because you're easier to
That's
uh
almost worse.
yeah. It's very rare to see them in the daylight just cuz again, I have it written down. Again, we're like one step ahead of this whole
That's
thing,
what I'm trying
but
to do, man.
yeah, but yeah, they do tend to try and pick people who are more vulnerable or easier to target, and they also like to stay as hidden and on the down low as possible.
Their greed must not be that bad then.
Well, it's hard, like it's not necessarily that the Wendigo has greed, but the Wendigo stands for greed in Native
Or the
American culture.
starvation or whatever.
Yes.
Like,
You could say that the Wendigo stands for greed because actually, you know what? I'm just gonna let myself get there on my own because I have it all written
all right.
down. But they can be a threat all year round, not just in the winters. However, they are much more scarce in the warmer seasons. It is assumed that they go into a hibernation like state in the summers if the food sources are low. So, what actually happens if you get possessed by a Wendigo? So, when I was reading about this and when I learned about all this, like this stuff is crazy. Like, you do not want to have to deal with this. Like, I've never heard of this, so it's actually insane. But basically, the first thing that you would experience getting possessed by a Wendigo, which the way to get possessed by it is if you see it, you are most likely going to be possessed by it because you have to be looking at it head on to see it. And if you're looking at it head on, then it basically has what it needs to possess you.
Do not make eye contact.
Um, it could either possess you and turn you into a fellow Wendigo, or it could just basically kidnap you and just kill you and eat you. And even creepier, there have been accounts that Wendigos actually take humans and they will actually hold them like kind of hostage or like store them and feed on them slowly as snacks rather than meals.
It's like hibernation
So
meal.
yeah, which is
Nice.
you'd like I just that would be horrible. But yeah, so if you do get possessed by a Wendigo, you would probably know pretty soon, but sometimes it can take days or weeks for things to start showing up. You could see something in the woods and think you made it out alive, and then you start showing signs. You will first experience mental changes. You would likely become very withdrawn from society. You will start to isolate yourself into seclusion, and then you will start to feel an intense feeling of hunger.
Oh, it's like rabies.
Yeah, but you may not know for what at first. Your mindset will start to change into a deep hatred or anger, along with a sense of ruthlessness, rebellion, greed, uncontrollable hunger that will eventually turn to cannibalism. The physical effects would be emaciation of the body due to hunger, to the point your bones are visible through your skin. Once a human possessed by a Wendigo consumes human flesh, there is no longer anything that can be done, and they will physically become a Wendigo and furthermore reside in the woods to possess and eat other humans. This process is often slow and painful and often agonizing to the
It's
mind.
such an interesting like self-destruction. Like you're starving yourself in order to
Mm-hmm.
just like eat eternally.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Um, and to go into like the whole vulnerability thing that we talked about before and how Wendigos pick their targets. They do target their victims. There are certain people who are easier to possess, typically people who already have traits that a Wendigo has, such as a deep-rooted hatred for someone or something, selfishness, greed,
I'm
recklessness,
hungry.
irresponsible treatment of the environment or nature, which is interesting because Wendigos are also thought to be the controllers of like the harsh winters, and that they can make winters more harsh or less harsh depending on basically how
How
they
they're
feel.
feeling.
Yeah, like they can cause, they're said to be able to cause like blizzards and snowstorms, which could possibly like trap people on roads in
Hmm.
their cars to break
And
down.
hide
And
them.
yes, exactly. So um they are very involved with like being able to control weather and the environment and nature, and they do not like people who disrespect nature and the forests. So if you are
Ah,
someone who doesn't respect the forests, they will also go for you as
we
well.
are good.
Yeah. So just remember that the next time that you litter in the woods or whatever. It is even easier for Wendigos to target those who commit acts of violence based on these traits, such as rapists, murderers, and thieves. This is because they are more likely to succumb to those personality changes and accept those parts of themselves. Um, People who are already extremely isolated or exiled due to their crimes are also much more likely to become a victim. This is because their death or their transition to a Wendigo often go unnoticed. They do this also because it makes the transition period to a Wendigo quicker. Someone who is full of happiness, a love for life, and other humans, etc., would be much harder to transition, as they would likely reject and push away the mental changes that happen to them. They are also typically much more involved within a community, bringing much more attention to the death or behavior. And while Wendigos rely on humans for their food source, they do prefer to go as unnoticed as possible, and the less attention on their victims, the better. You can resist and reverse the possession of a Wendigo. It is possible with lots of mental strength to resist the transition. Up until the point of eating flesh, it is possible to survive. In folklore, it is said that you can also feast on fatty animal meats or grease to purge out the Wendigo. It is said that you will vomit ice, and that means that the Wendigo is gone.
Yeah, I'm good. I eat meat.
Yeah. Uh, so that is basically like the process of possession. And yes, you can save yourself if you
So
see one.
really what I'm gathering so far is don't be rude to nature. Don't commit crime. Don't be vegetarian or vegan.
Well, no, that they're not going to eat you because you're vegetarian.
No, I'm saying in order like if you like to reverse it.
Okay, sure.
Um yeah, that's all I got right now.
But uh yeah, so but that doesn't mean that they won't eat you just because you
Yeah.
are like
But
that.
I'm
But
so skinny.
like
I
if
don't
they're
have
really
a lot of meat
starving,
on me. You should skip over me.
um but yeah, another random fun fact about it, you may be able to tell that you are in the presence of one without seeing it. Because they live in the cold, harsh environments, they come with both an overwhelming stench, described as dead body smell from the deteriorating, rotting flesh, and they also have a freezing aura about them. So you may notice, um, even though it's cold, you may notice a random, like, extra bitterness to the air. If you feel that, along with a, like, dead body stench, then that could be a sign you're in the presence of a Wendigo, and you may want to get the hell out of there before you see it. Because once you see it, then you're done for.
Is there
So
so I was gonna ask if there's like a strategy to escaping it, but I guess if you don't see it, then it doesn't really matter.
right.
I was gonna say like, do you run? Do you just like act normal? Like,
I mean, to be honest with you,
but again, it doesn't really matter because if you don't see it, then
right. I'm pretty sure it is very similar to a skinwalker in the sense that as long as you don't like acknowledge it or see it, then you can escape it just fine. But it could still position itself in front of you and kind of force you to look at it or something. So
it shouldn't be. That's cheating.
you still have to be like vigilant about it
It
when you
shouldn't be
escape
allowed to
it,
do that.
but well, it
It's about
doesn't
the
really live
hunt,
by
man.
rules. And lastly, you can kill a Wendigo.
Oh, that was gonna be my question.
So, if you are someone who doesn't get possessed by one, rather you get taken by one, and perhaps they don't kill you right away, you can kill it. The only way to kill it is to destroy its heart. And something about Wendigos is that their heart is frozen. So they have one, but it's frozen. They don't have any blood, so you can't kill it by hurting it anywhere else because it's not going to lose any blood. You have to destroy its frozen heart. If you do this, not only will the Wendigo die, but so will the soul of the person inside the creature. It will be released. So,
Wow.
yeah. But I would imagine that killing a Wendigo once it has you is pretty difficult.
What if you write the spirit's name in the death note?
I don't know if that would count because it's not a human.
But it's still like the soul of a human.
I don't know. I don't know the rules of that. But
All right.
yeah, so I have some more pictures. I have a couple of more like traditional photos of it. So this first one, I can't get it to zoom in, but that first one, the one of it crouched down,
Ooh.
is a more traditional representation of it, a more like human-like figure.
Yeah.
The one in the middle is a more modern representation again, and then the one on the right is also a more traditional representation.
That's terrifying.
But yeah, they're pretty scary. And like, if you look up pictures of it again, the most common representation you're going to see is of the antlers and like the deer-like figure. And it's actually really hard to find more traditional photos of it just because the antler form has just become so prevalent. But yeah, oh, there's a better way to see that far right picture. Just like how long and skinny it
It's
is.
so long.
Yeah.
Gross.
But yeah, so I'm trying to remember some of the other things that I read that I didn't include like on the document, but basically there have also been stories that Wendigos can infect entire communities simply just by it like going into communities and basically just like infecting a bunch of people by looking at them and like being a part of it. Typically, this is more common in older stories just because the original form was more human-like, so they were able to sometimes pass more as a just regular person
Which even
in
based on those
society.
pictures, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
We don't
there are
know.
so many different stories, and we
Yeah.
don't know which ones are the most accurate and which ones are like more accurate to firsthand accounts. But yeah, there are so many interesting stories out there, like that one, like how they could pass as a human and go into communities and like infect a bunch of people. But yeah, it's just crazy stuff. I didn't like I'd heard of Wendigos a lot, but I didn't know all of this.
So I guess we can deduce that what happened in Minnesota was not a Wendigo.
No,
Definitely not.
definitely not.
These episodes are actually good because it's going to help with like stories down the road to like if somebody's unsure of what something was, because
Yeah.
if I had said this story any other time, you'd be like, oh, it was a Wendigo and they're pretty much the same thing as a skinwalker. They are not.
Yeah. But that's all I have for it.
I
Do
feel
you
like
have any
you've
other
really
questions?
answered all my questions because like I was trying to ask questions like along the way and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're a great teacher. I don't really have. Because, I mean, the main things I was wondering were how similar to skinwalkers are they, which not really.
Not really. The only thing that's similar is that they use a mimic to
Hmm.
lure their victims.
The origin, like location and stuff of them.
Mm-hmm.
And my burning question the whole time was, can you kill one?
Yeah.
And
So, yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I can remember from the research because anything that I thought was like super interesting, I obviously included. But I'm sure there are tons of other like stories and like legends that you could read that differ, but yeah, that's just the most like basic description of a Wendigo.
well, based on all of this information, if anybody who is watching or listening may have been in a winter storm, perhaps, and said, "Ooh, even though it's cold right now, it seems to be colder in this spot."
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, like you smelled stinky stuff in the woods or something.
Yeah.
Please email us because we want to hear about them. We
Mhm.
want to share them with our little part of the world.
Yeah. That's it. I don't have anything else.
Well, I think
I'm
you
done
did.
talking.
You're
I'm just
definitely
kidding.
a better researcher than I am. One, because I don't have a lot of patience, and two, because I don't know. I'm just
I like to research. Um I like to just like learn a bunch of random stuff about, I don't know, I'm one of those people when I like start to like look up something, I just go down like a whole big rabbit hole and I just like,
yeah.
so I went through a lot of stuff, and especially like there was another um Minnesota folklore that I really wanted to do. I
Mm-hmm.
figured that with the Wendigos there was probably more information on it for like a first episode kind of thing, but there's actually something called the Deer Woman, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Deer Woman
Mm.
of Minnesota, which I'd never heard of. And just to keep it very brief, she is essentially just like a half deer, half woman. On the top, she appears as like a super stunning, beautiful woman. And then on the bottom, she has like deer
Just like a
legs.
centaur, but
And basically, her whole like thing is that she basically targets like men who are not loyal to their wives. So
mm.
you basically can only get caught and killed by this deer woman if you are like a cheating asshole essentially, because
Nice.
she shows her like beautiful woman self, and she'll typically like show herself in areas where like a man is by himself, and she'll target men who are in relationships, like men who have like a woman in their life, and she'll show herself, and if the man approaches her, then she
Uh,
will basically use like her sexuality to lure this man away, and if he follows her, then she kills him.
get him. He's next.
Yeah, so I really, really wanted to do it on her, and I might still do one in the future if this becomes like a regular thing, which I wanted to, but depends on if you'll like it.
Well,
But yeah, it was similar to this where like she has a lot of like um represent like symbols. Is the word. So she is a symbolization for basically like femininity and like being um very like womanly and like feminine.
I was
And
gonna say
also
like
she
lust and
has,
adultery and like
yes, she also is a symbol for like being loyal because she doesn't like
mm.
lust and
Oh, so
adultery.
the quite the opposite
Yeah,
of
so she,
okay,
yes. So yeah,
interesting.
basically, if you're a loyal man, you're all good from the deer woman. Don't worry about it.
I'm good.
But yeah, so let us know if you're interested in all of this. I mean, I feel like this was definitely again a trial episode. I
Right, but
will have to tweak things, but I
I
thought
think
this
it
was
has a
fun.
lot of potential, and please let us know if you like it because I liked it,
Mhm.
and I feel like it would help us learn along the way, and it would help you all learn along the way. And
Yeah. And also, I feel like this helps, like, also me feel a little bit more involved just because, like, you are so much better at editing and, like, all that kind of stuff. So you have definitely taken on
yeah,
that role. And up until now, I really haven't had, like, a huge role in it.
mm-hmm.
And I think that this would be, like, a really good way to do that and even out the workload
Yeah, girl, do your
because
thing.
cause I really do love to research and, like,
Yeah,
do all this kind of stuff. So yeah, this was fun.
I have been working my butt off.
You have been with a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
But
Oh man, I gotta say, uh, the record I'm producing for the band Spade, the first single comes out this weekend.
yay!
I know it's I think it's this Friday at midnight. Um, so like going from Friday into Saturday, because I know that can be confusing sometimes. Um, but hold on, I'm gonna verify their Instagram so that you can keep track if you are interested. Um, yeah, they're just at the band Spade, SPADE, um, on Instagram. I think they have a TikTok, but they don't really post anything on it. But Instagram's where they've been posting like all the updates and stuff. So
Yeah. What kind of music is it?
it they don't confine themselves to one genre or subgenre, I would say, um, because like working through all of this, it's been like each song has been very different. There have been songs that like fit together very well, but there's some more like laid back, like I don't want to say like
Oh my
folky songs, but more
goodness.
like acoustic songs. There are like super upbeat, like fast jammy songs. There's more pop style
Hold on.
songs.
Ned has something to say. All right. I guess that was
I
it.
wish we could get like one good meow out of him into the
I
mic
know. Ned.
because he likes to talk
Okay.
all the time until he's like.
I know.
But anyway, like all of this entire record is like based around one guitar tone and one drum kit and everything. So like they all blend together, but there's um one or two songs that have like synths on it and some songs that have piano. I mean, I'm just saying instruments right now. But if I would say that they're rock pop, but they don't confine themselves to
Yeah. I
one
was gonna
subgenre
say
of
it is definitely a like poppy alternative kind of vibe.
yeah.
So
So the record name I can actually say it now because they posted about it is "Love and the Lack Thereof," and I absolutely love that name. I think it is very profound,
mhm.
and I'm glad that they went with that name because I remember the night we were like tracking drums or something, and the drummer told me what the possible name was, and it was that one. And I was like, if you change it, I'm not your producer anymore. I didn't say that. I may have said that, but like in a joking way. Um, yeah, the band Spade, "Love and the Lack Thereof," first single Pulse, out this Saturday. Um, everybody's worked their butt off on it, um, and hope you check it out. Hope you like it. Just the
Yeah.
same as this podcast episode.
Yeah, and if you did enjoy this, we both thought it would be kind of fun if everybody likes this kind of theme to do different cryptids or legends or creatures or spirits or whatever from different
Mm-hmm.
states. So if you like this and you have a certain state or phenomenon that you would like to hear about, you should comment it and I will do some research on it.
I also have another suggestion for one of those, and I can either tell
Yeah.
you on camera or off camera, whichever you.
No, throw it out there.
So it's not within the United States. It's actually a Japanese urban legend that I discovered, and I can't remember the name of it, and I'm not going to spoil too much. But basically, it's this like I don't know if it's a young girl or a woman or whatever, but if you see her, she's wearing a mask, and she asks if you think that she's pretty, and if you say no, she kills you immediately.
Oh.
If you say yes, then she takes her mask off and you see that her smile is like cut like
Oh my gosh.
like ear to ear and she asks you the same question, but she kills you either way. So it's not like you can
Oh,
get
so
out
it's
of
a
it kind of
lose-lose
thing. Yeah.
situation. I was gonna
Um
say that's the exact opposite of the deer woman. She
yeah,
kills you if you.
it's super I only saw like bits and pieces of it and I would love for you to do more research on it because I think it would be a
Yeah,
pretty cool
yeah, that would be
episode.
cool.
Um
But
But yeah, please let us know if you like this. I think this has a
mhm,
lot of potential. It's something different, and we don't have to rely on stories all the time, especially if we run out or don't get a
mhm,
submission or whatever.
yeah.
So yeah,
But
I think that's gonna do it
anyways,
for this episode of Ode to Ghosts. Still submit your stories. We're not going away from
yeah,
that. Ode to Ghosts
yeah,
podcast at outlook.com.
yeah.
It's always in the description. Um, yeah. I guess we will.
You might be able to hear Ned purring into the mic, possibly.
Nope, he's not
He
close enough.
was. No, he was. He was just up here.
Well, we will see you next week and hope you enjoyed.
All right. Bye.